I bought one of these Nexpal portable air compressors. I like the features of it. You know, it can run off a DC power plug or its internal battery. This isn't really a review, it's more of a how-to. And it worked fine until I tried to use it in sub-freezing temperatures, and it froze up on me because the lubricant they're using in the motor pump assembly isn't rated for below freezing temperatures. So I wanted to take it apart and see what makes it tick. And, you know, it looks pretty daunting on how to take it apart. But if you guys ever have to work on this, I mean, I got this for 12 bucks. I always buy the cheapest clone off of Amazon because the more expensive ones, there's really not much improvement. So you might as well buy the cheapest version that you can find with the best specs and hope it doesn't break. But I digress. Here, we're going to dissect it, see what makes it tick. It doesn't matter which order you do it in, but you need to get this bezel off, and then you need to take one of the ends off. And you can use an old credit card, or I'm using my old driver's license. And you just want to get it jammed in there. Okay. And then pull out. And there's one end. And I'll show you on the bezel I have. You have these tabs here. So you can either try and get the other end popped out. I shall probably try and do that now. I may just work on these tabs. Okay. It's best to work on one side. So there, I have one side out, and now that's out. Pull the pad off, and then I've found to work on this end is the easiest. You want to get your fingernail underneath there, and then get a credit card, and just work it around. Now, disclaimer, I've already taken this apart, so mine's coming apart a lot easier than if you were to do it the first time. And that just comes off. You see the tabs there. So at this point, you can push this out, and then there's tabs here. And you can get this end apart. Okay. And then there's a this piece comes off, and then you can just push in. When you're trying to get it out through this end, you might scrape up the display, the paint. This is painted, so the display will still work, but it's a really tight fit. You can try doing is squeezing the housing and pushing down like that. And then squeeze so it doesn't mar the and there you go. So that's out. So now you have 4 screws here. And it just opens like that. Now, this one is rated for 1700 mAh. It actually has a 2000 mAh battery. Okay. So you have your battery, which you can unplug, which I recommend doing that first. You have your motor here, which unplugs. and then this lifts out. Then you want to take your screwdriver. Obviously I've taken this apart, as I said before, so it's come apart pretty easily. To disconnect the valve assembly from the motor pump. So when you take that apart, okay, set this aside, you got a spring-loaded one-way valve here, okay? So this is the assembly. It's got a 380 motor. It's a 20,000 RPM, 390 motor, sorry, made by Dingley, okay? This is different than your larger tire compressors in that it doesn't have a reed valve. The reed valve is really nice because it's going to last a long time. It took me a while to figure out how this is sucking in air and then compressing it out without using a reed valve, but I'll show you that in a minute. So next you want to remove the pump from the motor. And you want to use a proper size screwdriver here because these screws will strip out quickly if you don't. But also they have thread lock on them. So that's a motor. This fan can pop off. It's just friction fit. Okay. And then I've already removed these prior, but let me get the bag here. You have a circlip and a washer, and on this end you only have the circlip. On this end you have the washer and then the circlip. Okay. Once you get those off, you can pull this out. Okay. So there's your gear with countershaft weight. It's in a ball bearing, which is pretty impressive. The motor is bronze bushing, but the pump assembly housing, there's a ball bearing there, and then I'm surprised that there's a needle bearing in there. So you look inside here. I hope the camera's catching this. There's just one port for the air to go out. So you're wondering, where does the air come in? This uses an O-ring, but it's not a typical O-ring. Let me remove it here. This is a grooved O-ring. Okay. And what happens is this O-ring sized to where on the downstroke, air bypasses it and gets sucked in. But as it goes on the upstroke, this expands, either from the friction on the ring causing this to bow out, in conjunction with the air pressure, it pushes the air, gets in this groove and pushes it out. So if I close this, I can feel that it's easy to come down, but once I push it in, I feel resistance. Okay. So the problem with this is going to wear out. You know, I bought this for emergencies, not for using every day or week to fill up my tires. I have a larger air compressor that's still portable, but it's more robust and meant to be used more often. Whereas this is going to wear out quickly, especially if with the stock, I don't know if they use Vaseline or Astroglide, whatever you call it. But you want to use a higher end grease something that's compatible with rubber, that's not going to break it down. Because these things, I'll be honest, this will wear out pretty quickly. So I've seen guys 3D print this on this with plastic instead of rubber, and it's worked. And I've seen on Alibaba that you can buy replacement pistons. But if you clean this up, and then I'm using something called Tinkseal. I'm going to lube this with Tinkseal, lube the gears, as well as the needle bearing, and hopefully that'll last a lot longer. But that's how it works. It uses expandable O-ring that has a groove in it that, it's normal on the downstroke, but it expands on the upstroke to push air out. Now I can put my finger over this and feel the pressure as it's pushing up. So it's pretty neat, but I'd rather see a reed valve assembly like on larger units. And then I'll show you how to reassemble it. Just some tips on reassembly. When you're putting this back together, make sure this plug is facing down. So when it goes back in here, it plugs into this. The other thing is on this crankshaft here, make sure the flange of the bushing is toward the inside and you have a washer there. Okay. You're going to lubricate this gear. I highly recommend a dry lube because otherwise dirt's going to get in there. All right. Make sure you lubricate your one-way valve. Okay. And so let me put this in, reinstall this here. So install the plug. You want to make sure that this battery cable is between the plastic. Okay. Otherwise it's going to get kinked. Make sure your fan isn't rubbing on anything. And there's these rubber mounts. Make sure they're all in place. You have one here and two down beneath this. Make sure those aren't dislodged. Okay. It's a good idea to lubricate the rubber pieces on this valve piece. Okay. Make sure this clip is in the vertical position. Okay. So get everything tucked in there. Make sure all your wires are clearing. Okay. And then reinstall this. Something's binding here. That's what you want to be careful of, is that nothing is binding, and my rubber seal here is what's causing the binding here. Get this back apart. Get that housing around the seal, and now it's closing properly. There you go, that's better, that's flush. Okay. You want to take some black nail polish and repaint, or take a marker and repaint these areas that scuffed off. So this is ready to go back together. You want to come in down through this side. Reason being is you have minimal chance of scraping this versus going in through this side. So to prepare for that, kind of bow this end out so it doesn't scrape. So you can see right here, it barely clears. Squeeze the sides, and then it got these plastic ridges to get past. Okay. So come past. So this end's open. And this has 2 grooves for this circuit board. Make sure you get that circuit board in those grooves. Kind of hard to see. And get this installed, and then check your alignment. It's perfectly aligned. Okay. So then, before you install this end, give it a test run. Okay. So now it works. I'm going to put this end back on. Okay. I'm going to get my, there's a little peg and key to get that on. And then this just pushes on. Get one side in first. And if you want to help get those tabs in with a screwdriver, you can. And just manipulate the pad so it's lined up. You should hear clicking. Okay. There we go. My battery's low. So that's it. That's the this is applicable to not just the Nexpal, but there's a lot of these portable air compressors that have the same, they're all similarly made. So I hope that helps you, for you techno geeks like me that wonder how these work and how I'm going to make my $15 Amazon special last as long as you can without having to buy another one, or to troubleshoot it in the future. Thanks for watching.